Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, Councilmember Kate Stewart proposes doubling the bag tax. Should Maryland Circuit Court judges be elected in contested elections? Maryland elections are the focus of national attention, and will the choice for the presidency come down to the very last that's being counted? Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by former County Council member Nancy Floreen and Laurie Halverson, a member of the Montgomery County Republican Central Committee. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. "13 years ago, Montgomery County was one of the first jurisdictions in the nation to charge a tax on single-use plastic and paper bags for the purpose of cleaning up the Chesapeake Bay watershed. After an Inspector General report determined that lax enforcement of the bag tax was costing the county lost revenue, Councilmember Kate Stewart came up with a novel idea. Well, why don't we just ban the use of plastic bags altogether? And while we're at it, let's double the tax. Nancy, you were on the council when the initial bag tax was being passed, and it seems that the tax, kind of had its, solved its intended consequence, which was to reduce litter pollution in the watershed. This proposal by Ms. Stewart looks like it's a solution in search of a problem. What's going on?
I did a little bit of research, and I was traveling recently and was asked if I wanted a bag, and I was told it was 10 cents to get a bag. So I think that what Kate Stewart is proposing is bringing Montgomery County in line with a number of other jurisdictions. She's in the press release that accompanied this. They identified, I think, 9 other jurisdictions in Maryland. I know it's the rule elsewhere in the world in many places. So I don't know that it's just different from what we're used to. I do notice when I go to the supermarket, most people come in clutching some kind of carry container. And that was the intent of the legislation to begin with, to get people to not use plastic bags. The issue then, and I presume it will be the issue now, will be what do you do with takeout stuff? That was always the issue in terms of cost burden to businesses and difficulty in dealing with consumer choice and the like. But otherwise, this isn't really such a big deal as it was last time around.
Well, I will say that one of our former panelists, Susan Heltemus, she gave me a reusable bag which said, "My reusable bag makes me better than you." And I always thought that was hilarious because, I have nothing against the reusable bags. But Laurie, this isn't a trivial issue. The proposal is a regressive tax that doubles the cost for one-time bag use, and people do use one-time bags. That impacts the poor and indigent portions of our community who can't afford a $5 reusable bag. They don't carry bundles of bag with them on the bus, or when they're going to the grocery store. And if they're walking home, they don't want those paper bags that seem to rip and tear and are unreliable. So what's going on here?
Yeah, isn't it interesting that the OIG says that the current policy isn't working well, and so they double up on the policy to make it work doubly worse. And it is, you need to look at the economics of this thing, because every plastic bag and grocery bag costs about 1 cent. But if you use, paper bag, it's a lot more than that. And I saw that there's a Danish study that says that if you have a reusable bag, you have to use it 52 times to make the carbon imprint smaller than a single-use plastic bag. 52 times. So how many of us use our bags? Maybe we do use them more than 52 times, but you gotta buy a pretty expensive bag, and how much of a carbon footprint will that create? You have to look at the economics and what it's doing to all of our middle class, lower income folks. And people who take public transportation, how do you expect them to be carrying 5 or 6 bags with them as they go to the grocery store? And then, it's just not practical. So you got to look at that as well. There's an NIH study that was fairly recent that recommends voluntary incentives instead of banning plastic bags, because technology is now catching up. And there are a lot of plastic bag companies that are now instituting biodegradable type of bags that are really more expensive right now. They're about 10 cents per bag. But if we try to encourage people, not through tax, but through incentives, incentives to companies who use them, maybe give them tax cuts or something like that, that will incentivize companies to use the higher cost, which will create higher demand, which will make those biodegradable bag costs to go down. So we don't need, I think we need to look at, yes, there have been bans in the past, but look at what's happening now. Look at the technology and where it is. It's time for Montgomery County to actually be the forefront of something like this and think of something new instead of copying other ideas that are not working.
So Nancy, I guess the fundamental question really comes back down to is, do the plastic bags that are being out there, are they ending up in our watersheds, and are they still create a pollution problem? And if not, why are we making a change?
Guys, the horse is out of this barn. The decisions that was made long ago that this was going to be county policy. What's interesting, frankly, is the revenue stream from this has been, it's not huge, it never was, and it's been pretty constant, which suggests that human behavior probably has been induced to change a tad, but not entirely. It's not perfect, but I'd say the deed is done, folks.
Well, I think we have. And let's go on to another topic we can beat to death. Is the election of judges. The Maryland selection of circuit court judges is a rather, convoluted process. Most judges are appointed to fill a vacancy by the governor after going through some type of vetting process by the county bar associations and others. There are lots of groups that weigh in on these things. And then that judge is required to sit for a contested election at the next opportunity, and then finally elected to a 15-year term. There's a new panel that came out that recommended that judges be, voted on an up or down basis as opposed to contested. And having gone through the process one time myself of being consideration for a judge and whatnot, but thinking that, it's a good thing that we allow contested races, because otherwise it's an old boys club. It's your county bar association. And if you spend enough time going to the Tuesday lunch each month and hobnobbing with the county bar, well, then you're going to be selected. And, if you don't, if you're an outlier, you're not going to get elected. And I think people should have a chance. So it's rare, Nancy, for a sitting court judge to be defeated. Why change the system?
Well, I haven't been through the process the way you have. But as an attorney, I look at these races to the extent they're races. I think they're foolish. Nobody has any information. The judges can't raise any money. So how are they supposed to campaign? How are they supposed to educate people? How are they, and what is the criteria? I think it's foolish to have these races. Frankly, I don't think they achieve anything, and there's no way to inform the public of what's at stake, if anything. They have been trying to achieve far more diversity in the bench over the years than they had before. So I don't think it's
probably a club, really comes
to be sure, but it's a club of competence, and there are way more women and people of diverse backgrounds sitting on the bench these days than there ever was before. Is it perfect? No, but I think having a race where you can't campaign, you can't really raise money is insane.
Well, that part I agree with you, but the fact is almost every judge is appointed originally by the governor, And that has led to the diversity and of both on nationality and on sex. So that we've seen a change. But the most recent case in Montgomery County where a judge was rejected was, certainly because that particular judge, after having been appointed, ran into some ethical problems and was replaced through the elective process. So I'm not sure an up or down vote really is the solution. What do you think, Laurie?
Well, I was like, why are they talking about this? Is this a priority? Is this something they should be working on right now? And it appears that the work group was suggesting this because it's a DEI issue. There is a pretty good representation from minorities in our current judges. However, they don't feel that it's as diverse as it should be in smaller counties. So they're trying to change, I think, to make it diverse all the way around in the whole state. And I just don't think that's
anything.
What?
I mean, it really doesn't change anything. If
no, and I just don't think it really is a priority.
The county bar is the one that really controls who gets nominated and appointed.
Right, and I know it's a very strenuous process. They really are vetted very well, and I do trust the process of the appointment process. And I do agree with Nancy that it's hard to know as a voter who to vote for. But I look to, I look to my party. I look to usually Democrats and Republicans agree on the sitting judges. So that's a good thing. I like that it's not as partisan as some of the other races are. But sometimes politics can play a role in it. And I don't like that. But I do like, that I can look to certain groups that I trust to vet it for me. Yeah. And I make that selection at the ballot box. But I just don't think it's a priority. I'm not sure why they really think that.
I picked the topic just because I'm fascinated by the judicial process, but I guess it's time to move on. When we come back from this short break, Maryland elections are the focus of national spending and national attention. Stay tuned.
When I first saw Turtle, my heart was full. Now anything but lonely.
We had this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with Turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a little bit of a lot of things.
But they're all pure love.
And welcome back. With so few truly contested federal elections and the balance of power in both the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate being determined on a razor's edge by maybe a single House race here or a single Senate seat there, national attention is being paid to Maryland, to the U.S. Senate seat that was once occupied by Ben Cardin, and the 6th congressional district race to fill the vacancy left by Congressman David Trump. Laurie, ever since Angela Alsobrooks defeated Congressman Trone in the primary, the question has been, can Larry Hogan win despite being a Republican? Can he?
A number of Democrats have told me, when I'm standing at the school on voting day, they won't vote for Trump, but they want me to know that they voted for Hogan. But I'm also hearing a number of Democrats who say that they won't vote for Hogan this time because they don't want to sway the Senate seats to be more, to be the majority. And I hope that, it's unfortunate that they think that, because I think they don't understand the power that Hogan can have as a senator for the state of Maryland. He was the chair of all the governors when he was governor. And he has a lot of influence, and I think he can be a leader. And if he loses, I'm afraid we're going to miss out on the chance to really help our state. I don't think Alsobrooks has the experience or the temperament or the fiscal understanding that she needs to have to really serve as a senator. That's a huge responsibility, and I just don't think she's ready for it.
Nancy, what do you think?
Well, obviously, federal money, money from all over the country thinks that Hogan has a chance. I don't think he does because this is such a blue state. And I mean, Laurie's alluded to the issue for Democrats here, which is control of the Senate. So I think it's interesting. I mean, Hogan's trying to position himself. That's a whole nother session on his future. I don't know if that is pursuable. He'd be a far better national candidate than the one you have now. But the fact of the matter is that in Maryland, I don't think they can pull it off. God help us; these campaign ads need to end. But I do think I don't think their money is going to get them what they want.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, Angela Alsobrooks does have an impressive resume from having been state's attorney in Prince George's County and being a moderately successful county executive in Prince George's County. And that plays to her strength. I think a lot of people recognize it. I think, the fact that, she does have these, tax problems that have come out recently are a problem for her. But, Governor Hogan is swimming upstream because of the voter registration here, and are there enough independents that are willing to support him? It's going to be a fascinating race. But let's turn to the 6th district race, which is, kind of come down to an interesting horse race between former delegate Neil Perot and April Delaney. So, Laurie, is the third time the charm for Neil Perot?
It's Neil Parrott, like the bird.
Parrot. I'm sorry.
Well, I hope so. And I was really encouraged when the polls were showing he was in the lead. I know he mentioned that when I was at one of the parades to support him a few weeks ago. And he's got a good ground game, much more than he did a couple years ago. There are a lot of people knocking on doors. Republicans have reached I think we have reached every home in the 6th district in Montgomery County. We're taking care of the Montgomery County side of it. And he's, that's an area that he needed help with last time. He didn't get enough votes in Montgomery County. So yeah. And when you look at, unfortunately, there's a lot of lies that are going around in the pamphlets and on the websites. I was looking at there was a Hood College debate that if you watch the debate, you'll see that it's pretty apparent that what you read about it is incorrect in most places. It was not.
We're running out of time. I want to get Nancy in before we have to go to a hard break. Nancy, what do you think is going to shape up in that race?
Well, that's always a tough district. And it's been self-funded candidates who have pulled it off. April's putting her money in here. Trump put his money in there. Can she pull it off? I don't know. It seems like it's a pretty close race. I haven't been following very closely. And the question is going to be turnout.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think again, Laurie points out that Montgomery County is going to be the determinative precincts. So let's go to our last topic. And the last topic, of course, is the big enchilada. We have a national election for president coming up. And virtually since the day she was nominated as a Democratic nominee for president, the national polls have sitting Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump tied in a dead heat. 3 weeks are remaining, and everybody is still jockeying for, those elusive votes in the swing states. So Nancy, I think, to be fair, Vice President Harris was put in a tough position when she accepted the nomination. She inherited a campaign from President Joe Biden that was, very dispirited and having to dance around politics, which she may or may not support. But she's part of the administration, and this is, Former Vice President Hubert Humphrey had to do this in 1968 when he was running to succeed President Lyndon Johnson. Can she win?
Well, I certainly hope she can. I hope she can pull it off. I mean, the challenge is for her opponent, your guy, is anathema to so many people just by his behavior and what he says. That, I mean, she doesn't have to do anything. She just has to be like a normal person. And there's some expectation that she needs to be FDR or, JFK or Obama to get out there in terms of her speeches and whatnot. But, she's in an interesting situation given the dynamics of what she's been drawn into. I think she can pull it off. Everyone's working very hard to make that happen on the Democratic side. And, I don't know what the ground game is on your side, apart from Elon Musk. If that makes you proud, go for it. But it's going to be a real statement over who this country is going forward.
So Nancy, before I go to Laurie, I just a follow-up question, which is in 2020, Mrs. Harris didn't make it past the initial primaries because her positions were overly progressive for your party. And so is your party totally going to be in lockstep with what she stands for? Joe Biden was the moderate choice, not the progressive choice.
I don't think she's so progressive. She was a prosecutor. I mean, she puts people in jail. She's got a Glock. That is not your progressive person. Maybe you all have that too in your glove compartment. I missed that. But, I don't think she comes across as so quote unquote left wing as people might consider. I think getting through the primary is a challenge for folks. And, she hit the wall there back then, but that was then. This is now.
All right. Well,
the question is for you guys: are you going to follow Hogan's lead and vote for Reagan? Which is what he did.
I don't quite get that, but
Hogan said he cast his ballot and he voted he wrote in Reagan. I encourage you all to do that.
That's the vote is secret, the vote is private. So Laurie, what Nancy says is partially true. President Trump is a known commodity, and he's loved by many, but he's also loathed by many. So what's going to happen?
If you just listen to Trump and not all of the media and all of the haters, you'll get it. And I'm sorry that you don't, Nancy. If you listen to the economic club of Chicago a few days ago, I saw the whole thing, and he got a lot of liberal people in the room. He had a standing ovation at the end. He was brilliant with his knowledge about the economy, and I was amazed about what he said. He shows a great vice presidential candidate in J.D. Vance, who has been a champion for the middle class. And he's really, with his Hillbilly Elegy book and the movie and his eloquence and his brilliance when he was in the debate. I mean, he couldn't have picked a better vice presidential candidate who could take his place.
Laurie, we got about 10 seconds left.
Okay, so yeah, I really feel that Trump is the momentum is building. I'm excited about it, but we got to vote. Everyone has to vote. And vote your conscience, vote not just about the character, but about the kind of CEO you want to help our country. A nice, normal person is not what we need. We need a fighter. We need a person who will dodge a bullet and say, fight, fight, fight. That's who we need.
Well, thanks, Laurie. And Nancy, I'm not going to give you the last word other than to give a plug, because I know you're so heavily involved as an election judge. Early voting starts next Thursday, and it goes on for a week. And I know that I'll probably see you at the Potomac Elementary, or Potomac, or I guess it's Falls Road is the community center.
Well, it depends. If you vote on election day, I'll see you at Potomac Elementary. If you vote early, I may be there on Falls Road, but there's a cast of characters that will be there.
Well, that's great. And I want to thank both of you for being here, and still stay tuned for parting shots.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight. Both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand, trying to text somebody back. Because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
Welcome back. Now with parting shots, Laurie Halverson.
Early voting starts next week on October 24th, and it goes through October 31st. So on Thursday, you can go and vote.
Thank you, Laurie. Nancy Floreen, your parting shot.
I don't know about you. I voted in September, right after I got my ballot in the mail. And I encourage people to get, if they have received ballots in the mail, to get them in the mail as soon as possible. That will facilitate the counting process. If you did receive a ballot in the mail and you want to, in fact, show up and vote in person, that's okay. But just be prepared. There is a special process called provisional voting for people who have received one kind of ballot and choose to employ the in-person ballot.
Thank you, Nancy. And thank you both, Laurie and Nancy, for being here. And I want to thank the audience for tuning in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest hitting political talk show. For 21 this week, I'm Casey Aiken.